welcome to episode 172 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today is the 8th of July. So welcome everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely crafty week since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share all the things that I've been making in the last 7 days. So today I have some knitting, some sewing, a gadget, a blast from the past, a couple of questions from the Ask Me Anything thread, and some information on my shop update. If you want to skip along to any of those sections, if you use the progress bar just at the bottom of the screen, there are markers to show you the beginning of each of the sections, so if you're not interested in a particular one you can skip along to the next. And there are some links in the description bar down below for my website and also all my social media pages, and also some information on the Makalongs that are going on in the Ravelry group and on Instagram at the moment. The hashtags for those are Craft 20 a day and also the CHM Summer Sock Along 2021, and there are more details in the description bar for those down below. So let's start with the knitting, shall we? And I have a finished object to show you. So this is the painted Honeycombs shawl, and it's a pattern by Stephen West, and it is quite big. I was a bit worried when I was knitting it that it really wasn't going to be very big, but because you sort of block it and open out the honeycombs a bit more, it's got a little bit bigger, which I love. I always love a lovely big shawl. And basically I started on this longer edge. So this is the large honeycombs version. There is one with smaller honeycombs, and you actually start on the sort of short edge. You end up casting on a small number of stitches and then increasing, whereas for this large honeycomb one you end up casting on this longer edge and then you end up decreasing as the time goes on. So you're working in rows this way and then you end up casting off when you've only got one square left. The turquoise here is the sort of main colour, and I used 150 gram skein of Collinette Jitterbug, and it was a sport weight yarn, and then I've combined it with some fingering weight yarns for the rest of it. But the length required for the shawl was just within the amount that was in 150 grams of this sport weight, so it was plenty, and I had a tiny bit left as well, which was good, so it wasn't yarn chicken at the end. So at the beginning here there's a couple of Norah George minis, and then I had a mini set that was from Fruitful Fusion that's in the middle there, and then I had a few extra minis out of my stash to sort of fade in too, because I thought these faded really nicely together. So there we go. So I'm going to show you how I'll possibly wear it. I'll probably wear it like a short, like a scarf around my neck, like so. Which is going to be very, very warm. Or you could wear it as a proper shawl. So the back doesn't look quite so nice. It's quite a one-sided shawl, I think. But oh, it's a lovely size over my shoulders. This is the first time I've actually tried it on over my shoulders. It's lovely the way it drapes. I think Stephen is really good at making a shape of the shawl which sort of holds over your shoulders really well, if that makes sense. The reason why I decided to knit this one is that I did the Slipstravaganza, and I'm going to include the Slipstravaganza as my blast from the past project to sort of show you the difference between the two, because it's got a little bit of this honeycomb texture in it, but with the combination of other things as well. So I'm really pleased that that's finished. I must admit though, I did knit about half of this, and then my mother-in-law Liz finished it off for me because she was looking for a project to do, and I got a little bit fed up of doing all the honeycombs because it's quite repetitive after a while. And because I chose to do sort of fading from one mini to another rather than alternating and doing lots of different colours, it wasn't quite as interesting to knit. But now it's finished, I absolutely love it. Really love it. So there we go. That's the painted honeycombs shawl by Stephen West. Now I've got a work in progress to show you. So I'm working on my sparkle cardigan. And I've done quite a bit since the last podcast. Where that progress keeper is there is where I was in the last podcast, and I've done quite a bit of the body. I am going to make this cropped, so it's sort of waist length or just past waist length, so that I can wear it with dresses, because I think that's a nice flattering length with a dress. but I still have a little way to go yet. So what the construction was, is it basically knitted this back panel to just under the armpits, then you picked up stitches on the front and then caught up with the length on both sides, and then you cast on extra stitches under the armhole and joined them, and I'm working backwards and forwards on this bit now. This is the right side, and you can see that it's taken shape. So once I've done the length of the body, it'll be time to add on the sleeves. But I'm knitting it in my Pretty in Pink colourway, and it's on my merino nylon base. Since I started working backwards and forwards, I've started to alternate skeins, and I'm actually just running the yarn along the edge of the work because I'm going to be picking up stitches on that side anyway. I don't suppose you can really see very well, but I've been running alternating the yarns up the side of the work on this edge. That's the back, and I'll give you a bit of a close-up of the front of the work. So there we go. So that's my Pretty in Pink colourway that I dyed myself. I am at the moment alternating these two skeins, and I haven't actually finished one skein yet, but I have dyed up 4 of these because I was intending to do it a relatively cropped length and 3/4 length sleeves. I dyed up a little bit less than it suggested for my size, and I think I'm going to have plenty because I feel like I haven't got that much more length to do on the body, and I still haven't finished those 2 skeins yet. Might be able to use it for something else. So next is my sewing section, and I have finally ticked off one of the things that's been on my Make 9 list actually for 2 years now. I didn't actually tick it off last year. But I finally finished my Luna Lapin coat. Oh, loved making this actually. A little bit fiddly, but well worth it in the end. Look at those gorgeous little buttons and the little tab on the sleeve. My cuff has got some lace on it because that's the dress. I've pulled it out at the edges because I just thought it looked really pretty, but that isn't part of the actual coat. The back has got like a little V opening here, and then you've got these cute little pockets in there as well, so lots of lovely details. The inside of the coat is lined with some bias binding tape, and I used another type of sort of Liberty print, and then round the neck you use binding to finish off the collar as well, which I think is really pretty. I'm not going to take the coat off because it took me ages to get it on her. I think I've stuffed my Luna quite well and the sleeves are really quite tight. But I'm happy with how she looks with it on, which is all important. You can see the dress that I'd made previously with the little bits of lace on them, and I actually made some little underwear that sticks out of the bottom slightly, which is very cute. And they're all patterns that are in the Luna Lapin book, and it is a book by Sarah Peel. And I picked mine up off Amazon, I think, but I did see that a little while ago the Works had them on offer for about £5.99, I think, so do keep an eye out for bargains for things like that. And I finished her coat and I thought, well, I think she might need a new pair of shoes to go with her coat. So I actually made some boots that are also in the book as well, and they have laces on the front. She did have some little sandals before, but I thought as she's now got her coat on, she needed to have boots to match. And I thought I didn't want to have too much of the same felt, so I picked out some pink felt to make her boots. I did change the lacing slightly. In the original pattern it said to do sort of straight lacing, but I cross-laced them instead. And I used a plied embroidery thread instead of embroidery floss because I thought it looked sort of thicker and a little bit more like laces. And to finish the laces off, I've basically knotted them at the end, and then I just used a little bit of fray check to stop them fraying just at the very ends of the thread. I did try melting the thread with a soldering iron, which I normally do to ribbons and things to stop them fraying, but it didn't really work with this material. I'm not quite sure what it is, but actually just putting a knot in and the fray check worked really nicely. So Luna is now fully dressed. I'm very tempted to make the little chair that's in here as well. So that's what the coat is supposed to look like, and I have a picture of the chair in here as well. There's some more clothes as well, and full instructions of how to make Luna in here. I just thought that this chair was really cute and she can sit on it, but I'm not sure where I'd put the chair once I'd actually made it, because our shelves downstairs only just house the length of her ears, so we shall see. It might be best just to have her on the shelf with her coat and boots on. So that's the first part of my sewing section, but I do have a little bit more sewing to show you. So if you've been watching for a while, you'll know that I've done a little bit of bra making, and I've never really got a bra made that I'm really happy with the fit. I've tried a few patterns, but I have got a bra that I purchased from M&S and I've been trying to copy it. Now I've made possibly 3 versions of this bra and it hasn't been quite right. I'm going to try it one more time. I haven't actually finished this bra yet, but I thought I'd show you one of the cups that I'd made. So this is the right cup. I've used an overlay of lace tulle over some Duoplex underneath because I like it to be really nice and stable in the cup. This cup has got 4 panels in it, and I've basically copied the M&S one that I purchased from the shop. I have actually found it a little bit more difficult to copy than I thought originally. I'd probably been better off unpicking it or cutting the bra open rather than trying to copy it from a complete bra, but I'm slowly getting there. So I discovered I was better reducing the height of the bridge and then tilting the cup slightly to give it a little bit more support. So I'm going to try that this time, and I have made some slight modifications to the cup pieces. I double checked that I'd got everything exactly, or close as I can, to the original bra. I did snip a little bit off some of the pattern pieces, so hopefully that will fit better this time. If I can get the perfect fit, be wonderful, because then I won't have to go keep trying bras on in shops, because I absolutely hate it. I normally have to try 10 or 15 bras on to get one to fit, and if I've got a pattern that I can just keep making when I need one, that'll be much easier. So 1 cup finished, hopefully full bra next week. Don't worry, I won't be modelling the whole bra at the end. I'll just tell you whether it fit or not and show you the finished piece. So in terms of bra making information channels and courses, I have a list of a couple of the ones that I have been watching, or I've bought Craftsy classes to learn about bra making. I did notice that there's a new event, the Great Bra Sewing Bee, and they've got a website, and it's a paid for course, but there's some live demonstrations and pre-recorded courses which are split up into sections, which you can sort of purchase separate sections if you want to. Just say if you're a beginner bra sewer, you could just do the first one, and I think it starts at about $29, but I might have a look at that for myself because there's loads of different demonstrations and courses on there, so I might have a look. So the event is on August the 4th to the 8th this year, and obviously you need to register and pay for the course, but if you're looking for some bra making resources, that's a good place to look. Right, so now I'm on to the gadget section. So this week I wanted to talk to you about the Knit Pro Magma chart keepers for, well, knitting charts, but also other charts as well. So it's got a little press stud closure at the front here, which you can undo, and actually you can undo it at the back as well, so if you didn't want that on, that's nice and convenient. And then inside you have a place to put your chart, and there's a magnetic bar and some little magnets to hold your pattern on there, and that is ideal for marking where you are on your pattern. This press stud here can go back on itself and click just inside. So there we go, you can actually lean it on the side like that, or you can have it this way if you wanted to. If you had, this is an A5 one, so this is the small one, you could put your sheet that way if it was an A4 folded in 2, but I do have a larger version as well, I'll show you in a second. But there's a little pocket in the side here, which I've folded up the rest of my pattern and put it in. I did have my pattern on this page actually, but obviously because it's a paid for pattern I can't show it to you. And then there's a little pen at the side here in case you want to make any notes on your pattern. And I find that this is really useful to have on the sofa, on the table next to me, so that I can see what I'm doing, and then it's easy enough just to push the magnet down to show where the next bit is I need to knit. Ideal for colour work and also lace patterns as well. I chose this smaller one because I just don't want to have such a massive folder right next to me on the sofa. But if you do want to have like a full A4 sheet with this magnet on, there is a larger version which looks like this. And I'm holding it upside down. I haven't opened this one because it's for sale in my shop, but it's exactly the same thing. It's just got a larger area to put your piece of paper and the same magnets and pockets, etc. So there's two sizes, and so this is the small and this is the large. I prefer the small personally, but if you do want to have the full A4 sheet so that you can mark off where you are, the bigger one is better. I just thought it was quite convenient to have a smaller folder to be able to pop it in your knitting bag as well. So two sizes, and I do have these in my online shop now because I'm trying to stock it with all the gadgets that are like my favourites. So I do have another clover version for marking patterns, which I showed you briefly on last week's episode, but I'm going to have it as next week's gadget, so watch out for that. So next I have my blast from the past, and as promised I'm going to show you my Slipstravaganza shawl. So this is another Stephen West pattern with some of that honeycomb in it, and because I did this little bit I thought, oh, I'd quite like to do a big shawl just full of that honeycomb section. But this one has various other little bits of pattern in it, and I absolutely love this. In fact, I think I prefer the whole shawl and knitting it for this one compared to the honeycomb, the painted honeycomb shawl, just because you've got quite a variety of different techniques here. I just thought that it was a fabulous knit. Really enjoyed that. And I knitted this in MCN, which means that it is super soft. So I did it with the grey is my Living on a Prayer colourway, and then I had 3 skeins out of my stash, and I can't quite think of the names off the top of my head, but I will link to my Ravelry page where I have listed them so you can see which ones they are. And there's a photo of the yarn before I knitted it up as well. But I love this one. This is possibly my favourite one to wear at the moment as well. I love a large shawl. I just absolutely love it. So ideal for wearing like this with it over your shoulders, but also I really liked wearing it with this sort of at the front and it's sashed across. I just love the little chevrons around the outside, and you could wear it with a shawl pin just like that. Absolutely love it. I've worn this quite a lot even though I haven't been going out very much. So that's my blast from the past. They're a similar sort of size actually, but this one's a slightly different shape with it being more of a curved edge compared to the painted honeycombs one. This is a triangular one, but they're very similar size, like so. So there we go. I have a couple of questions from my Ask Me Anything thread on Ravelry now. So first of all, Becky was asking about the wool winder. Right, so she says she's bought a Knit Pro wool winder and that she's really pleased with it because it's such a time saver when skeining up wool. But how do I wind 10 to 20 gram skeins? Because she finds that the tube that the yarn wraps around on the wool winder is actually quite large, so when she's doing 10 or 20 gram minis they end up being quite loose and they fall apart quite easily. I have a sheep's. Now I've pronounced it completely incorrectly so don't go on my pronunciation, but I've got a sheep's wool winder. I always undo the band actually just to make sure that it doesn't stretch out. But you can see that it's got quite a large circumference around where you wrap the wool when you're winding it. And what I tend to do is actually, if you put quite a bit of tension on the yarn as it's going onto this reel, I think that it's a little bit tighter, and then once you take it off here it encloses a little bit tighter and then it's less likely to fall apart. I used to use this technique for my sort of smaller plastic ball winder as well, which it probably worked a bit better on because you could, because it was a little bit slimmer than this where you wrap the yarn around. It would get really tight actually and useful, but it still works for this technique. And I wanted to mention actually, while I've got this out, that I'm relatively pleased with this, but I did notice that it took me a while to realise that you could actually take, I've just removed the tension band from here, but you could actually lift this section, and you need to oil under there to keep it nice and smooth and working properly. And obviously every time I need to use it, I'll put this band back on, but I do tend to loosen it every time I'm not using it, just so that it doesn't stretch and it lasts a bit longer. But just a tip for anybody who's bought one of these, that this does lift up and you can oil underneath, because to start with it was squeaking like mad. And I didn't realise that you could actually lift this off, but you absolutely can. So there was other places I oil it, just under here, and then I just used some wax on this little wooden post here just to make it run more smoothly, because the sort of bobbin runs all the way along that wooden post, if that makes sense. So hopefully that answers your question, Becky. I just hold my tension a bit tighter when I'm balling it. You could also actually use a Noster pin, which is basically a stick which you hand wind the ball round, which then you can sort of, because you're doing it slowly and yourself, you can control your tension quite easily. So that's another option. I have a second question from Kate, also from Ravelry, and she was talking about socks and how quite a lot of the time when you have a heel flap and gusset, you only have reinforcing stitches on the back of the heel rather than underneath, and that she finds actually the bit that wears is underneath the heel and by your big toe as well. So she wanted to know why people reinforce at the back of the heel and not underneath the back of the foot and the toe. So I think it's because we used to wear a lot more leather shoes that were quite stiff at the back, and I think it used to rub the back of the heel. Well, certainly when I was a child, Mum used to get me to wear these awful leather shoes that were really uncomfortable, and they used to dig in at the back of my foot. Well, whether that's just me. I think now there is a bit more wear in other areas, so you could do slip stitches just under the heel flap. I know that Danny from Little Bobbin Knits, she has done slip stitches just underneath the heel flap as well, so you could do that, and you could do slip stitches on the toe as well. But I think a good tip is just to make sure that you're using a yarn with a good nylon content to strengthen it. But you can also get nylon thread that you can hold double with your fingering weight yarn to stabilise the sock as well. But I think you can adapt patterns to how that you find them and how you find that they're wearing on your foot. So I hope that helps, Kate. I just think it's about adapting the pattern for you and where it wears on your foot more than anybody else. I do think that I suppose it's easier to do slip stitches on the back of the heel as well, so that's why we sort of keep on doing it. And I do think as well, having slip stitches on the back of the heel just cinches the knitting in just a little bit, so it helps fit around your heel quite nicely. So lastly, I've just got some information on my shop update. So I have now restocked some of the gadgets that went out of stock at the end of last week. I wasn't quite sure what stock levels to sort of maintain because they were new in the shop, but I have got new stock in now. Just to mention that the August yarn clubs will be on sale on the 23rd of July until the 8th of August, and those will be shipped on the 20th of August. So you've got a bit of time left until the August one is released. So I revealed last week a theme for my advent calendars, and I just wanted to mention actually there will be a pattern included in there. I'm just working on it at the moment, but it's a secret. And I will also be doing the sock set and project bag that I did last year, but obviously in this year's theme. So there'll be the option to have the advent and then the sock set and project bag if you want that as well. But I'll give you more details closer to the time, and those will be available on the 1st of August. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you in the next podcast. Bye!